I'm going to start by showing you a little video which is quite an eye-opener. It's less than 30 seconds. The Poddar, this breastplate transforms the weather into a divine. That is life. Truly, we hear her voice from thousands of years ago until the very end of time. Or so we believe. You know, what's quite surprising is we don't even realize what it means to lose 1% of our heritage every year. If somebody tells us that we are losing 1% of our waterways or our forest cover, we know immediately what impact that's going to make. But in the last 35 years, we've lost 35% of our heritage. And this is what is really telling us who we are, where we've come from, and where we are going. And it's something that in our lifetimes, if we see this kind of loss, then imagine what holds for the future. I'm going to move to the next one. No. Yep. There is no place, no platform, no person who has, can, and will attempt to carefully document the incredible breadth and diversity of Indian art. Or so we believe. What is also quite surprising is India is now 76 years old. I do not know if you know, but we do not even have an encyclopedia of Indian art. And one might question that with Google, why do we need an encyclopedia at all? But it's quite shocking that no government, no university till date has even bothered to put this together. So we attempted to do this and we launched this last year. And it's still a work in progress because compressing 10,000 years of history and culture into 4 or 5 years of work is never enough. So every year we are adding to it, but it's online and it's the first time it's been put together. It's all original content, vetted by an international academic review committee, which looks at it. Because we realize that what you would find on the internet is very often factually incorrect and it has agenda or jargon. And very often the same myths of facts, wrong facts are being repeated again and again. And that was the reason that we felt this needed to be done. It's online, it's free, it's available to everybody anytime. So we are not printing this, but it's online. We've even done courses on Indian art, which is again online, and it's a first. This is the third one. Science, technology, engineering, math. These pillars for children often have a missing ingredient, one that allows them to navigate creatively through any problem. Art. So the whole idea behind the museum was how do we get people excited back about our history, about our culture, and about who we are. And India as a nation, in fact, the first museum in India was the Indian Museum in Calcutta, which is about 200 years old. And one might ask this question that why did we not have museums before that when the Western world did? I guess in India, we were surrounded by art everywhere, whether it was the temples we would visit, the way we would even do our thali for having our food, the way our grandmothers wore us their saris and the way it was embroidered or woven, the little rangoli pattern you would do outside your door every morning. So art was all around us. It was not something that you had to go outside and see. And this entire demarcation between high art and low art and craft and art is something which is a very Western view of looking at it. So it's that which we wanted to blur. Now, why are the arts important, and why do they even need support? Some of the reasons you had seen in the three little films that we saw, But let me show you something else. This is The Last Supper, something I'm sure all of you are familiar with, one of the most important murals in the Western world. And uh, in Milan, well restored, well kept, and well preserved. Now let's move on to something equally important in the Indian context, a mural from the Ajanta caves. So this is what it would have originally looked like, except this is what we've done to it. So this is how we look after our heritage and our culture. Another startling statistic, India has about 1,000 museums in the government sector and about 3,500 archaeological sites, and most of them have their own museums. Now, this is the most populous nation in the world. It's got one of the oldest cultures. All this, the budget that the Ministry of Culture has, and much more, is equal or just 10% more than the budget for one museum in New York, the Metropolitan. This also includes everything to do with all our public libraries, our cultural festivals, be that in Hampi or in Khajuraho or in Ladakh, everything to do with music, theater, dance, art, archaeology, and even all the libraries put together. So it's really something that as a country we have not paid importance to, and that needs to change. Today we are sitting in India, which has the best airports in the world, the best metro systems in the world, the best IT in the world, the best companies in the world. Why should our museums be something which are third world, or even something that most of us don't even enjoy going to? Very often, and I can't see you all, so I won't ask for a show of hands, but most of us, or 90+% of people I've spoken to, have gone to an Indian museum only when they were taken from school. And even for most of them, the motivation then was not to see the art, but was the ice cream at the end of the trip. And that's what we said. I grew up in India really missing great museums. But all of us, when we travel overseas, one of the first things we do is go to a museum. And we would not even hesitate waiting in line for half an hour, 45 minutes for that. So why can't we have that available here? I'm not sure how many of you have been to the museum yet, but we opened in February this year, and you're all encouraged to go there. The big red dot shows you the location. The darker blue is Cubbon Park, and you have the Vidhan Soda and the High Court. So it's in the same axis that it's there. This is the building. It's called MAP for short, or the Museum of Art and Photography in its full form. The museum's collection is in 6 different departments. There is modern and contemporary art, there's classical or pre-modern art, there's indigenous art of folk and tribal art, there's textile craft and design, popular culture, and photography. And the logic behind this was, again, to break the hierarchy between high art and low art and craft. It's quite funny that, when a third or fourth generation of a weaver is doing the same thing that his great grandfather, grandfather, father, and he has done, is still considered a lowly craftsman. Whereas somebody who goes to an art school and gets a degree in 3 or 4 years is called an artist. And if we really look back 100 years ago in India, almost nothing done by anybody in the arts was signed. I mean, we've got the greatest sculptures in our temples or the finest miniature paintings. Very, very rarely would there be a mention of any name there. So why is this that because of a degree you become an artist, otherwise you remain a craftsman? So it was really to break these boundaries, and it was also not to place it according to value, that because something is expensive and valuable, it is high art and it should be in a museum. Popular culture, which was made for mass consumption, is put on the same pedestal as high art traditionally known. MAP has 8 basic pillars which we stand upon, and we give equal importance to each. So accessibility this is in no particular order. I've just put it alphabetically. We, in India, many of the places are not accessible to most people. And for us, disability and making sure that we make it available to people who face any disability was a very big issue. It's not something that we knew. We were exposed to it through one of our patrons. And I'm happy to say that today MAP is considered the most accessible museum in the country. And it's not just in terms of a wheelchair access or something, but we are doing enough stuff for people who have sight disabilities or hearing disabilities. Everything has an Indian Sign Language interpretation in it. So much so that we have about 2-3 members of our team who themselves come from that community and with a certain disability to make sure that all our programming is done, keeping people like them in mind. We're doing a lot of stuff even with art and mental health, and we realize that's a big issue today. I mean, what I'm saying, you all should actually go and experience if you haven't been to MAP already. The next is collaboration, and here we are looking at partnering with various museums and institutions around the world. Even though we've been open for less than a year, we've collaborated so far with almost about 40 or 45 international and national institutions through various programs. There's a program that we've done called Museums Without Borders, where we look at an object from each collection and link them together with a common story. And here we've even partnered with the British Museum, with the National Museum in Singapore, with the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, and a host of others. There's another series that we do called the Director's Cut, where the two directors of the museums have a conversation about museum making. And there have been museums in Africa and Argentina to Europe, to the US. This happens once every 2 months. There's another series that we do called the Deep Dive, which is again a historian from one of those museums doing a deep dive into something that we would otherwise not be able to see. Yet another collaboration that we've done is for those of us who are not traveling frequently to be able to see a great exhibition in another museum. And sometimes these are once in a lifetime opportunities. We have that museum do a virtual tour for our audiences. Conservation. This is one of the reasons also why we are losing our heritage every year. A lot of it is lost because we don't have enough conservation techniques, or we just don't have enough people who are conserving art. India has less than 200 trained conservators, whereas the need is about 10,000. So we set up our conservation lab even before we started construction of the building. And the idea was to build up a pool of trained professionals, and even today to continue training them to build capacity. So it's not just to conserve the artworks in the collection, but how do we even help others who want to make a career out of this? Education is our most important pillar and possibly accounts for almost 65-70% of what we do. Like the encyclopedia I had told you about, we are engaging with schools. We've had almost 10,000 students who've come to us for our workshops. Everything that we do with any school is for free. We've now even done a children's learning channel. So pretty much like the Netflix model, you have a season with 8 episodes. And every week we release one of those episodes. So in a period of 2 months, you have a season that's being done. We are now on to our 10th season. Inclusion. And this is including all sections of society and people who otherwise are marginalized. In fact, one of our opening exhibition, which is still on, which is called Visible Invisible, has many of these marginalized voices in there. Our app, which allows you to access it, even though it's in English, it's translatable on the app itself into 25 different languages. If you go on our website, you can change the font size and the color depending on what is convenient for you to see. So there are many such features which are very much a first that we've done here. In terms of outreach, we are doing about 15 or 16 events every month. All these programs are free. And it's basically to engage with the community and bring in different facets. We have an auditorium which would seat about 125, 130 people. Many of these things happen either in the auditorium or in our learning center. Some of them, of course, are walkthroughs of the exhibitions itself. In terms of partnerships, a little different from collaboration, where we do things together with non-art institutions itself. We have a festival that we do every year called Art is Life. This year happens to be our 4th edition. It's from the 1st to the 3rd of December, and it's also linking up with the Unboxing Festival that's happening between the 1st and 10th of December. And this year, it's really centered around using the artworks to tell new stories. And there are 3 great filmmakers who have done a series of films based on the collection or on artists in the collection. All of you are invited. A lot of this would also be online. And last but not the least is technology. Here, sitting in Bangalore, I think we've been very fortunate to be working with some of the best tech companies. And there are many firsts that we've done. You know, we were to open our doors in December 2020, and of course, the world had shut down. We still kept our promise, and we opened, but we opened digitally. And we were the first museum in the world to open digitally. Had we opened physically, we would have had 130 people in our audience, in our auditorium. Instead, we had 30,000 people who attended our digital launch. And that gave us the impetus and even the confidence that, you know, there is going to be a much bigger audience online than there would ever be physically, because you don't have to be within the building to see it. You could do it from the comfort of your home, wherever in the world you are. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. It was Accenture which came forward and built for us India's first deep fake, which is a digital twin of the artist M.F. Hussain. So if you come to MAP now, you can speak with Hussain and he answers back to you in real time. Microsoft did another project with us called Interwoven, which is linking our textile collection to that of other museums around the world, and many other such. Just to tell you, we are run through philanthropy. It's a not-for-profit initiative, and that's a little bit about our governance structure. And I'm not sure how we are doing on time. I can quit now, or I can show you a quick 1-minute video. Okay? Always been interested in art because I grew up around it. I don't even know when I became a collector, but it was never in the sense of building a collection and something of value. What used to bother me was we have some of the most amazing art in our museums, but very, very unvisited. I think the purpose of MAP is not just building a museum. I think MAP hopes to be a catalyst for change in this sector. This building is very particular. What Matthew and Bush have come up with is a very iconic design. I didn't know what went into building a museum.
As a practice, we have believed that every project has its own place and nothing should be generalized. It should feed on the project and having a signature style. For any building to become successful, there has to be a fairly strong idea which creates an identity for the building.
This work plays on the tensions between the idea of collecting and curating, containing and storing.
The image that we have generated is borrowed from colonial construction. The metal, the light steel water tanks, they were produced in England and they were brought here as panels and were assembled. I was making a kind of a metaphorical connection between the idea of storage of something precious. Just like the water tank is always aware of the pressure of water from inside, here is a container which is containing this unpredictable phenomena which is art.
For me, it's not national or global prominence that is the measure of MAP success.
how much are we able to move the needle in India would be my measure of success. If we can bring the conversation to people not just collecting art, but enjoying art, by saving our heritage, by being interested in what we are doing, if we can inspire, if we can educate, if we can entertain, if we can make a difference to people's lives, I think if we just create the right atmosphere, art will do its magic.
Thank you. And you're all invited.